Directions for Expert Review Panel: Establishing Content Validity for College of Education Rubrics. First of all, thank you. Thank you for this work. This work is integral to our accreditation, and we sincerely appreciate your time and willingness to participate. We cannot move forward in this effort without the assistance of our expert panel partners. If you have any questions as you complete this task, please don't hesitate to ask. Let's begin. We will begin by walking through each phase of the expert panel review process. The three phases of this work include reviewing the materials, completing the tasks, and then winding up the final steps by submitting the information back to UNC Charlotte. Finally, while we want your feedback to be thorough, we don't anticipate that this process will take great amounts of time. It's fairly straightforward, and we've tried to make it as painless as possible. We begin by reviewing the materials sent to you. These materials may be hard copies or, more likely, electronic versions of documents. These documents should include 1. A letter of purpose explaining why you were selected for this work. This may be in the body of an email, or it may be a separate document. 2. A copy of the assessment instructions provided to candidates. 3. A copy of the rubric used to evaluate the assessment. And 4. The response form aligned with the assessment and rubric for each panel member to rate each item. While the first three items are informative, the last item, the response form, is where you will record your responses. The primary objective of this process is to establish content validity for each rubric. As an expert reviewer, your feedback ratings on the response form help to determine the rubric's validity. For clarification, we are using the term validity to determine what extent the rubric measures what we, as the authors of the rubric, claim it does. Your primary task is to rate each of the items on the rubric in terms of to what extent the item measures the key construct it purports to measure. The key construct, or overarching idea, should be identified on your response form, along with an operational definition of the key construct, so you understand exactly how UNC Charlotte faculty are using the term. As an example, we will use a piece from one of our currently used rubrics. For example, in the College of Education, we use a rubric that measures multiple constructs. One of those constructs is candidate content knowledge. The operational definition we are using for candidate content knowledge is a candidate's knowledge about actual subject matter that is to be learned or taught. Notice that this definition may change depending on your grade level or content area. This is why reviewers are selected based on their expertise. On our rubric, there are currently three items that are collectively used to measure candidate content knowledge. A. Demonstrates knowledge of content. B. Demonstrates awareness of literacy instruction across all content areas. And C. Makes content relevant for all learners. In considering this example, most reviewers would initially probably agree that A. Demonstrates knowledge of content is important in considering the overall construct of candidate content knowledge. But what about B? Demonstrating awareness of literacy instruction. While definitely something that all educators should be knowledgeable about, does demonstrating awareness of literacy instruction measure candidate content knowledge as it is defined here? Some educators may consider B to be less important in measuring candidate content knowledge, depending on their perspective and experience. This is why we ask multiple content experts to provide their professional opinions in considering each of these key concepts. Going back to consider item A again, we may consider it to be too vague in measuring content knowledge. Item A, in essence, simply repeats the key construct. An expert reviewer may determine that item A is too broad and needs clarification to be effective. This is the kind of feedback that we expect from our expert panel of review. So what is each reviewer actually rating? Each item on the response form is rated in terms of how representative the item is in measuring the key construct, how important the item is in measuring the key construct, and how clear the item is. Each item is rated on a scale from 1 to 4. The first thing to assess will be representativeness. Using a scale from 1 to 4, reviewers will rate the representativeness of each item in measuring the identified overarching key construct. 1. The item is not representative. 2. The item needs major revisions to be representative. 3. The item needs minor revisions to be representative. Or 4. The item is representative. Next, using a scale from 1 to 4, reviewers will rate the importance of each item in measuring the overarching construct. 1. The item is not necessary to measure the construct. 2. The item provides some information but is not essential to measure the construct. 3. The item is useful but not essential to measure the construct. Or 4. The item is essential to measure the construct. Finally, reviewers will rate the clarity of each item. 1. The item is not clear. 2. The item needs major revisions to be clear. 3. The item needs some minor revisions to be clear. Or 4. The item is clear. In your materials from UNC Charlotte, you should have received a copy of your response form or an electronic link to it. Following the directions as explained here, please go through and rate each item on the rubric as to how well it measures the identified key construct. Remember, one construct may have multiple items to measure it, or it may only have one item. Part of your feedback includes open-ended questions. Are there enough items to measure the construct? Are there too many items? What else would you like to share with us about measuring this item? Please give us your feedback in the open-ended responses that should be included on your response form. One last thing. You've been sent copies of the rubric and the original student assignment in your packet of materials. These materials are for your information. You are not assessing the assignment or the entire rubric. You're only looking at how well the rubric measures what it purports to measure. Rubric indicators are not part of this. We will focus on inter-rater reliability when we assess that piece next year. When you're finished, please return the response form to your UNC Charlotte contact. If you have any questions, please contact us. And once again, thank you for your time and willingness to assist us in this important accreditation work.